Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you, Lynn from Chancellor, to share about the coming topic, and also thank you, Happy from VT to share about the topic today of our panel, Human Metropolis, toward human-centric design. So it's a very interesting topic and also very interesting concept because everyone now is talking about human design, human-driven design thinking. How does it really apply to urban planning, architecture? That's the main questions the coming following 10 years, I would say. So uh, I would like to start by one question. What do you guys think about the basic fundamental design principles of human-centric design in the urban city context? So maybe start from Habit first, and then also Lin.
If I coincide, I think it will be Abraham Lincoln's definition of democracy. It has to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. That should be the approach for any city planning and city design and city development and your investment on cities. If we look at our way of development, which is I was talking about the showcase development, that's not gonna really involve and include all the people. And that's always going to put you in a threshold that you'll find that maybe 40% or 50% of the people are not even able to have proper mobility, or 50% of the people are not having proper housing, or you'll find that even the uh, urban health situation or education situation is on the edge because we are disregarding at the first place the real inclusions of all the peoples. So our paradigm shift is one of the important shifting required if we really want to have a humane city. And human city, not only equity-based city, it's also economy-based. It has to have a certain kind of economic futuristic planning that whatever you have, whatever the resources you have, whatever the kind of constraint you have would be the guideline, not following some example or best practice around the globe. You have to also keep your mind, ear, and heart attached to the soil to understand what it's saying. I'm just let me complete this answer of this question by uh, a great urban planner came to here almost 100 years back. He said that uh, what Dhaka wants to be, ask two questions. One, what Dhaka wants Dhaka to be, that means the city, and what Dhakaias, that means the people of Dhaka wants Dhaka to be. So I think those are the fundamental way we are missing, and that paradigm shift can make any city absolutely with Dhaka a human city.
Thank you, Habit. And also back to the modern city scenario like Shanghai, Shenzhen, that Lin, you're working on right now. What was your any alternative principles or any overlapping principle that you would like to share?
Well, I think also I think the was the urban planner or the architect that you're
Patrick Gillis.
Patrick. I was going to say it was a Louis Kahn. I was going to say
Great.
because he also has that mentality. But I think Iqbal touched upon such a key but common theme. It's not that different between modern, developing, and developed countries because at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. It's about creating benefit, tangible benefit for people. And so at Gensler, we have this saying, it's not price per square meter, it's experience per square meter,
Wow.
or what we can offer to the people of a city. And when we're at Gensler and we're looking at modern mixed use complexes, master plans, that underlying principle of creating tangible benefit, whether it's mobility, micro mobility, whether it's affordable housing, healthcare, educational spaces, or we can foster the learning for the students of the future. I think those are all, it goes back to people. It's people centric. And at the end of the day, if we can augment the experience of people, whether in a city like Dhaka or a city like Shanghai or Shenzhen, I think that trajectory is the best one. Yeah.
Great. So I would like to follow up a question.
Sure.
So China has been growing so fast in the past few years, and definitely Taka has been trying to learn. So what is the best lesson throughout your professional experience? What was the best lessons you learned that maybe they are the mistakes that you think very important for other cities like Dhaka to learn?
Well, that's a very big question. I wouldn't say that Shanghai necessarily needs to be copied because, as you said,
Mm.
Taka has its own culture, it has its own points of reference, ecologies. But I think one of the lessons that we learned in Shanghai is that you absolutely need to be resilient to change. So, for example, micro mobility. In China, 20, 30 years ago, bicycles were all we saw. And then 20 years later, cars. Everyone needs to buy a car now for status. And then we said we had mobikes, so bike sharing and ride hailing. But in the past year, e-scooters have come to the fore and have far surpassed car hailing and bike sharing. So, but this creates something very interesting in the urban sphere. It creates a third lane. So, a space where it's faster than pedestrians walking, but it's slower than cars. However, it still gets people connected within a city. And I think connectivity talks to equity, allowing people in a city to have access to all different types of amenities. So, um, adaptation to change, being constantly ready to evolve. Mobility is just one example.
Speaking of adaptations, adapt to change, besides talking about human-centric design, so one very, to me, seems like one very unstoppable forces is the global development. Do you think the time and also the trend of everything, so it seems like there's invisible forces pushing the cities to go as fast as possible? You have to follow the fastest way to develop, you have to follow the fastest way to make sure it looks great. So how would you think the emerging cities like Dhaka try to remain resilient, the same time adapting to change, but trying to keep it its own comfortable or suitable pace of development?
I think, thank you for the question. It's a beautiful question. Coming from a city with 47,000 people per square kilometer, it has its own huge resources of its own. It's encircled by rivers, having a lot of water bodies. It has very high resilience attitude of people. It has um, a democratic government in place. And also, I think the time is changing even the concept of city altogether, all over the world. You know, regarding the mobility, you'll find that technology is now giving you not to move, you can be connected. So connectivity once upon a time is only was with roads and water bodies, trains and planes. Now connectivity is through mobiles, through internets. So you see, a lot of changes are happening all over the world. We have to cope up and find out what would be the right future for us with the educational capabilities of the people, employment pattern, whole country development, integration, and our resources. I believe for Dhaka, as it is already because of climate change and global warming, internal migration is so high, we have to think of our cities comprehensively with our whole country, our villages. That's another perspective which might be unique, but I think for this time, if you think that too, you have to think about other dimensions of communication like internet. So I think let me conclude my answer with this way. This city is already adopting that attitude. We are designing parks where a kid to a physically challenged, to an old person, to a woman, everybody is designing how his park he wants to see. We are designing water bodies or public places. Our government focus is now trying to shift from other kind of development to democratization of architecture, that means public place creations. Maybe that will create a new kind of dimension of city development where your drawing room, your house is not going to be important. Rather, your public spaces, places, or placemaking would be more important, where you will devote your energy, your money, because that's where you intermingle with people. Because internet is also pushing you towards corner of your house. So the whole perspective, am I clear what I'm saying? The whole perspective would be changed, where you will find that the more focus would be on public placemaking, so that you work in your house, not going anywhere, and going to the public place where you will mix up with others, not only Facebooks. So I think all of these notions are making a new era of thoughts and ideas and research important. And that's the reason I think where Lean is coming and their farm is doing, I salute that a commercial farm doing a lot of projects, they're investing 70% of their profit to research. I think that's another one that any development work, any planning, any investment should have research based on public domain understanding and aspirations. That's where a new kind of perception and perspective should be put forward as a paradigm shift.
Really appreciate the answer. It seems like there's a emerging movement in the community, in the society, that everyone can be an architect. Architect, everyone is there.
Actually, they
Everyone is
are.
the architect of their own home. So, uh, so both. Would you foresee what kind of any additional point to wrap up this panel? So, what additional characters or thinkings or elements of architects in future would you foresee, especially young architect? What do you think this kind of movement, very community based, very every corner driven learning? What kind of new architect do you think that the whole movement is incubating?
I think the fashion architecture, that means I will build a beautiful house, beautiful commercial building, beautiful piece of architecture, should be dropped from the mind
Mhm.
for this kind of fast growing cities. From the policymaker to an architect, urban planner to all engineers, all kind of professionals should always concentrate. If everyone is in good shape, if everything, wealth and resources are in equity base, if public places or public domain is focused, the whole development will have a different paradigm, because a small notion can make this conclusive. We had a dengue, a very public health crisis where mosquitoes are biting and we are having severe problems. We call that is the democratic animal showing us I cannot be only clean and having a good house. My neighbor has to be clean and in a good house. Otherwise, that mosquito will be breeding there and killing me. So the main notion is if we all live in a healthy way and our policy level and architects all think that that is the precious place where we should concentrate, the movement of turning around will start.
And in a little bit mainland China context, is there any additional input from your thinking and your experience, Lynn?
I think the fourth industrial revolution, this is and as Iqbal mentioned, Gensler has a research institute. So we do devote 17% of our revenue back to research. But we have this constant conversation. In the future, architects cannot just be draftsmen. We can't just be drawers. We can't just create beautiful images, because our clients are getting smarter and the needs of people in our cities that we design for are changing. So with the fourth industrial revolution coming, we have to deal with ideas, with research-based facts, and with technology that's overlaid on our designs. Because at a certain point, I think a lot of what designers do from the rote side can be done by machines. But what designers have that machines will never be able to replicate are the ideas linking together the research and that human element of understanding what your neighbor or your brother or sister need in this space that you're designing for them. So it's an overlay of technology, of research, and of that designer's mentality of adapting to change that I think will maintain the profession in the future. So
Thank you, Lynn. So I think to wrap up a little bit the panel, so I can hear a very complimentary positive feedback. So from a very every corner movement are adapting the whole movement of the urban planning at their own pace, the same time harnessing technology, and turn out it's not technology driving the trend, but the human harnessing technology, learning technology, and driving the trend. So that is more positively self-upgrading, technological, every corner, human-based architecture and urban planning. That's the true meaning of urban design for the emerging countries, and also the emerging countries that can be the model for developed countries or cities to learn further what could be done together. So thank you very much, Habib, and also Lynn,
Thank
for
you.
sharing on the panel.
Thank
And
you.
thank you everyone for enjoying the panel.